Hello everyone, so I get a lot of comments on my videos asking about my cursor animations inside of my terminal, and so today I wanted to make a video talking about how you can add cursor animations to your own setup, adding them to Neovim no matter what terminal you're on, and sort of the pros and cons of these sort of things and exploring all of the options. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, just go ahead and check out my cursor whenever I'm moving around this terminal. So let's go to a project here and then clear the screen, and then I'll open up to my fuzzy finder here, go to map-editor.c, and let's move around this file here. And as you can see, there is this cool flashy effect. Like I get little like ghost animations whenever I am moving around. Now this is, obviously a cool party trick. It looks like so fancy. It's like this cursor is flying around your screen, but it's also really, really nice for accessibility. Like I can see whenever my cursor goes between these panes here. And so that was the initial reason that I added it, was because it made it a lot easier for me to track these giant movements. But also, I have to admit, it is just also because it looks really, really cool. Now this is actually a feature of the Kitty terminal. It's built into Kitty itself, and all you have to do is put a few lines into your Kitty configuration file. So here are all of my relevant lines, relating to the cursor trail. So I enable it with this cursor trail 10. I set the start threshold to 0, so it's just always running basically. And then I set the decay from 0.1 to 0.5. You can set this very, very large and just have a super crazy cursor. I don't like that. I think if you do too much, it can get a little too distracting. So I like to keep it very, very mild. To install the Kitty terminal, they recommend to install it using this curl command here, but you can also most likely install it through your package manager. But if you're on a more stable type of distro like Debian, you might not have this feature because it is super, super new. But I'm on Arch Linux, by the way, so it doesn't matter for me. I have all the features right away, so it's really, really nice. But a big issue with this is that Kitty only supports macOS and Linux, and a lot of developers are on Windows, especially if you're like a game developer, because a lot of the things I like to make are games. Sometimes you have to work on Windows and you don't want to leave behind those fancy effects. So what are the alternatives if you can't use Kitty? So I have an example here. So I recently switched over to the Ghostty terminal because it has superior font rendering to Kitty. So just, my font looks crisper. I can have it at a smaller size, so I can have more text on the screen and it just looks nicer. So I now use the Ghostty terminal, but the stable release of Ghostty does not support cursor trails at the time of writing this video. So I like some sort of option to have cursor trails at least whenever I'm editing text files. That's where smear-cursor.nvim comes into play, which is an insanely awesome plugin that is actually unreal whenever you use it. It feels like magic whenever you're using it. It essentially gives you cursor trails that look extremely convincing inside of Neovim. Now this is no protocol specific thing. This is nothing to do with special geometry rendering done by the terminal itself. This is simply ASCII text being rendered on the terminal in a way to make it look like the cursor is smearing across the screen. It is really, really impressive, to be honest. And so whenever I want to have this on my setup, whenever I'm using Ghostty, I would just install it using my lazy.nvim here with just this command here. And I have a couple different commands here to configure how it actually acts. And as you can see, before having it set up, my cursor is just the regular cursor like this, no fancy animations because I'm in the Ghostty terminal. And then I reopen Neovim here and I go to my init file, and as you can see, I now have some cool animations. Now I have them really, really dialed down here, but you can dial them up and make it look super, super fancy. So let's go ahead and do that just for the video. I will make the stiffness like 6 instead of 9, and then I will make the trailing stiffness 5 instead of 8. And let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So we go to our init file here, and as you can see, look at that. We have these cool animations, and this works on any terminal. So I can open up some random terminal, like I'll open up the Sakura terminal, why not? This is a Qt terminal. It's got no GPU acceleration that I know of. And let's just open up some sort of file here. So let's just open up some file, go to our main.c, and as you can see, no GPU acceleration. I'm just on a random terminal, and as you can see, it looks pretty cool. Like, I cannot tell this is just a manipulation of the cells to make it look like this. So I have smear-cursor.nvim linked in the description if you're interested in checking that out, if you don't want to use the Kitty terminal or you're switching off of it like I am. And I do have the Kitty terminal linked in the description as well, because it is a good terminal. I am just switching over to Ghostty because I prefer the font rendering, but it is a good terminal, so I would recommend checking it out. So I do want to make a note that as of a couple days ago, you can have cursor trails in Ghostty if you build Ghostty from source. And luckily, Ghostty does have documentation on this. So if you look at the Ghostty terminal like download page here, it will have a build from source guide here. And all you have to do is clone the repository, go into it, and then you have to check out the tag you want, which you want the main branch. And then you want to do zig build d optimize equals release fast, so it's, you know, fast, and it worked. So it took a little while to compile it because it is a big project, but this here is Ghostty, the latest version, and this is the latest stable version, so it's kind of funny there. But now to add a custom shader, the first thing I have to do is make a directory for my shaders that will be inside of my Ghostty configuration directory, which the Ghostty configuration directory by default is home.config Ghostty. So inside of there, I would do make dir shaders. I'll cd into these shaders here, and then I will just grab the cursor trail shader from this repository that's going to be linked in the description called Shader Playground, which has a bunch of shaders for the Ghostty terminal. So yeah, let's go ahead and grab one of those out. So I'll go in here and let's do a cursor smear.glsl. So this is a shader file if you're not familiar with shaders. So we're just going to copy this text. I will call mine cursor smear as well. So I'll do vi cursor smear.glsl like this and paste in that text, quit out, and then I want to go out of that and go into my config here. And then inside of here, I will just do custom shader equals shaders / trail.glsl. Make sure that that is how I spelt it in here, because sometimes I misspell things. Cursor smear. Okay, yeah, this is a good thing I checked that. Okay, cursor smear. Great. Now let's go ahead and reload this configuration. So I'll do this, and that's just an issue with something else. But wow, we now have cursor trails, which that is not how I would want them. This is definitely someone else's specific configuration, but yeah, now we have cursor trails inside of here. This would be extremely distracting at this level, but I mean, you know, you can have them, so pretty cool stuff. What's really cool about this approach here is that I could actually edit this to my own, you know, needs here. So I've never actually looked at this, but maybe the color is in here. So we have trail color like this. So let's go ahead and look for where trail color is defined. I want my trail color to just be white. So I'm just going to do that. And now we have a white trail here. Duration, I'm going to make this 10 times faster. So I'm just going to make it 0.03 here. Like this, and I need to get rid of this field apparently, but yeah, look at that. It's like super fast and responsive, which is pretty crazy. This of course means that it will work with your entire terminal here, so whenever I am like typing things and stuff like that, it will work with that as well. So there you go, cursor trails inside of Ghostty, which is pretty cool stuff. The downside is you do have to build it from source, which does mean that you have to clone the repository and then do a zig build de-optimize release fast with the zig 0.14 compiler, and then it will do all of its things, and then you'll be able to run it. But it's not a big downside, and so if you really want to use Ghostty and you really need these animations everywhere, then there you go. So with that being said, that about concludes this video. I hope you found this useful, and I hope this demystifies, you know, where my cursor trails come from. It's a pretty cool effect. It can be distracting at times, so sometimes I disable it, but I think it's a cool little neat feature to have, especially to show off to people, like that you have this cool terminal that you can fly around with a fancy cursor. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe. Make sure to let me know in the comments so I know to keep making videos like this. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. See ya.